Hello and greetings, my friend. Matt Schifferly back again with another episode to help you be fit and live free. And today we're taking a look at this idea that was, inspired by the latest Stronger by Science newsletter. And if you're not on the Stronger by Science newsletter, highly recommend it. But the topic for this week was, do intensity techniques actually work? The ideas of doing things like pre-exhausting a muscle, doing bicep curls before you do your pull-ups to make your biceps theoretically work harder, create more of a stimulus for hypertrophy. Or things like drop sets, pause sets, things where you just keep driving your muscles further and further into a higher state of fatigue. Do they help to build more muscle than just doing a few hard straight sets? Well, spoiler alert, basically what they were talking about in the article was the idea that not really a whole lot. That doing a few good hard straight sets, pushing the muscles pretty close to failure and creating a good amount of fatigue in the muscle, pretty much built the same amount of muscle as someone who did the same thing and they just kept blasting the mother living hell out of their muscles afterwards or beforehand with pre-exhaust in order to stimulate more fatigue. However, one of the biggest changes with it was the group that had more of the high intensity techniques did experience more soreness and required more recovery time in order to adequately prepare themselves for the next workouts. So in other words, basically those who did the extra work were spending far more effort and paying a higher cost for the same stimulus than if they didn't do that extra work to begin with. This kind of goes along with this general theme that's been coming up in the research over the past, as far as I'm aware of it, several years, where it seems like if you want to build muscle, there's a degree of work and volume you need to do. You have to do enough that you're really pushing your muscles to, as I say, a good degree of high fatigue. But beyond that, the stimulus isn't potentially much stronger, which kind of goes a little bit against some of the things out there of like more is always better. You need enough, but not too much. So then, of course, the magic question is, well, how do you know it's enough? A lot of times I think we do a lot of this more work, more effort kind of mindset, at least I certainly used to, because we just want to really make sure we're driving that nail into the wood. Even though it's flush, the head is flush with the wood, we just keep hammering it as much as we can, even though we're wasting a lot of time and energy. We just don't want to feel so insecure or feeling like, well, maybe I'm leaving a little bit on the table. And for that, you could probably take a lot of assurance in the idea that somewhere in the ballpark, 2 to 4 sets, 2 to 3 times a week, the general strength training parameters, pushing the muscles to a good state of fatigue, getting to that real close to failure, or you could even say go to failure if you really have that kind of mindset for it and everything, although it's not necessary. Basically, I will always do my workouts to the point where I'm feeling strong, and then once I'm noticing my ability to be strong and the technique is starting to really falter, I'm done. And I'll do whatever amount of work it takes to get there. It could do 2 sets, could be 5 sets. I'm just trying to effectively burn my muscles out a little bit. However, I don't think it's completely worthless to do a little bit of focused work, particularly if you have trouble working that muscle adequately with big compound movements. And last week I did a video where I was doing one of my beautiful strength workouts where it was suspension dips and kind of dive bomber or elevated dive bomber push-ups. And one of the things that I was really pleased about with that was that after a few hard sets of that, and I started to really feel like the muscles were getting pretty cooked at that point, I thought to myself, okay, time to do some chest flies and some tricep extensions just to make sure those muscles are really good and cooked. And when I went to do them, I found that they were already completely fried, which meant that I was engaging those muscles well enough with the dips and the dive bomber or style push-ups that they were getting adequate stimulus in those movements alone. However, in the past, it used to be where I didn't really have the best tension control, particularly with some of the shoulder movements. So I could do those to the point where I was really fatigued and then still be relatively fresh for the tricep extensions afterwards, which meant the triceps weren't really working all that hard in the exercise. So it probably was good that I was getting those tricep extensions, and it wasn't extra work on the triceps. It was just making sure they received adequate amount of work to bring about that level of fatigue. So like everything here at Red Delta Project, it's not about how much work are you doing, how many sets and how many exercises and stuff. It's about achieving that fundamental objective. And when we're trying to stimulate hypertrophy, The objective, of course, is to challenge the muscular work capacity of our muscles. We're trying to really push them to a good state of that fatigue where they're like, dude, I'm about out, I'm running on empty here. And if you need the extra intensity techniques in order to achieve that, great. However, I would say in the long run, you should make it more of a goal to thoroughly work the muscles in a very holistic, symmetrical way with good tension control, so you don't really need that stuff very much, and then you can just get everything done in a couple hard sets and be done for the day. I hope that gives you some more insight and direction for your workouts coming forward, because remember, you want to work hard, but you don't want to be wasteful about things either, because requiring more of that recovery time and everything may feel a little more satisfying to feel those sore muscles the next day, but more recovery means slower muscle growth. Best of luck in your workouts this week. Be fit and live free.